Hello, and welcome to Invitation to Puzzles, where today I have an arrow puzzle for you that I set recently. I've been teaching my Sudoku course again, and so I've been making a bunch of puzzles as I talk about constraints there, and I've been trying to keep them in the like 1 to 2 star-ish range. So this is my attempt at a 1 to 2 star arrow puzzle. You can let me know how it does on that goal. But remember that for an arrow, the way it works is whatever these two cells sum to, it has to go in that circle. So, for example, I just flat out can't do that because that would say 2 plus 8 is 10. I can't write a 10 in this circle without breaking the Sudoku laws. The Sudoku gods would be very displeased if we were to do that. But if I make this a, say, 2 and a 3, I can make that a 5. That's fine. 2 plus 3 is 5. That works out. There is a link down below if you want to try this puzzle first. But for now, I will attempt it. So let's have a look at, and so a good place to start if you have a puzzle with given digits is what did the given digits do? And so 9 is a very special digit from arrows as a consequence of what I basically said about you can't make the arrow sum to too much. Because if I put a 9 in any of these and add a number to it, it's going to be too big. So the 9 can't go in any of these cells, which means the 9 in fact has to go in one of these two cells. And this corner mark here looks down at this similarly situated box. And now rules 9 out of those circles, actually. And we already know 9 can't go in these two cells. So now what I get is that one of these two cells is a 9. Now, we have an 8 looking backwards over at this box. And that 8 now is leading me to ask, where am I putting 8 in this box? Now, there's nothing wrong in general with putting an 8 on an arrow. 8 plus 1 is 9. But that's the only thing you can do. You can't do anything else. And note, in this box specifically, I can't do 8 plus 1 is 9, because the 9's up here, not in one of these circles. So this 8 actually is ruled out of all of these cells by Sudoku and all of these cells by arrow math. And ergo, one of these two cells is an 8. Okay. And if you chase this 8 over here now into this box, well, now 8 is ruled out of all of these. So one of these actually is an 8. And that 8 has to go with a 1 because it has to be 8 plus 1 is 9. There's no other choice. Okay. Let's look at what's happening with 7s, because I have these two given 7s, and they conveniently look into box 5. And actually, no matter what, the 7 in this box has to go on an arrow. And the sum of that arrow, what's it going to be? It's going to have to be 8 or 9. And so I need to put a 7 on an arrow, making one of these cells 8 or 9. Well, this one flat out can't be 8 or 9. And that's because we've got a 7 and 8 in the row. I mean, the 7 in the row, I guess, doesn't impact it being 8 or 9. We've got an 8 in the row, and we have a 9 corner marked in the row. So this can't be 8 or 9. So therefore, this has to be 8 or 9, and it can't be 8. So therefore, this digit has to be a 9. And remember, we did all of this because there has to be a 7 on this arrow. So this has to be 2, 7, just because 2 plus 7 is 9. And that has the very nice feature of telling me where the 9, 1, 8 arrow is that I said had to exist over in this universe. So that is a 9 with a 1, 8. Okay. We can do a similar game with the 7 actually over here. Where does the 7 land in this box? It lands funnily enough, on an arrow. And which arrow does it have to be? Well, it has to be the arrow that adds to 8, right? Because there's no arrow that adds to 9 in this box. And so we get to repeat this. 7 is on an arrow, so it has to sum to 8 or 9. In this case, though, instead of saying it can't be 8, we say it can't be 9. And so one of these is a 7, which means that 7 has to go with a 1. So we can put a 1 there as well. Okay. So that does a lot in this column. If I think about these arrows, because what I want to think about is, what is this circle? Okay. And so what's the least it could be? The least it can be is, I think, 5, because I could make these 2 plus 3. Note, I'm not allowed to use a 1, because the 1 is already spoken for in this pair on this arrow. So this has to be at least 5. But note the 7, 8, and 9 in this column we have already used up. So this is at least 5 and at most 6. So therefore, this is a 5 or a 6. And we can actually think about that a little bit more. What goes with the 5 or the 6? Well, given that I'm not allowed to use a 1, this is either 2, 3 or 2, 4. Meaning there's always a 2 on it. I can do exactly the same thing down here with the arrow that isn't the 817 arrow. I don't know which one is the 817 arrow and which one is the other one, but the other one has to be at least 5, because it can't have a 1 on it, and at most 6. And therefore has to be from 2, 3, 4. So if I want to really gratuitously pencil mark this, I'll say that these are from 5, 6, 8, because one of them is 8 and one of them is 5, 6. And then these are from 1 and 7, and then they definitely have a 2, and then that 2 goes with a 3, 4. So we've got a 2 with a 3 or a 4, and a 1 with a 7. Which is an incredibly gross and gratuitous amount of pencil marking to have floating around in the world, but it is what we have to deal with. But it has a really nice impact in that it has told me actually where the 2 goes in column 1. And so if you take a second to think about it before I say, where is the 2 going to go? And so, well, not in any of these cells, because those are, in fact, they're a 5, 6, 8, 9 quadruple, if you want. Not on top of the 7. Not in this cell, because we said we needed 2 for the arrow in this box. Not in this cell, because we said we needed 2 for the arrow in this box. And so it's only in one of these 2 cells. But it's not that one, because we've got a 2, 7 pair looking across the world here, placing a 2 here. And now, having made that argument, we can do something similar with 1. Namely, we know that's not 1, and that's not 1, because we need the 1 for my arrows here. The only spot for 1 in this column, given the arrows, is there. Okay, so let's rephrase all of that. So here's a different way of saying that. Anytime you have sort of aligning corner marks, and so what I mean by aligning corner marks here is I have 2 corner marked into columns 2 and 3 in this box, and 2 corner marked into 2 and 3 in this box. That should make you ask, where does 2 go in the other column? So in this case, I'm looking at boxes that line up here in columns 2 and 3. So the other column is column 1. And so when I have these aligning 2s, then I look for 2 over here. I also have aligning 1s. I could think of this as a 1 corner mark if I want. And so I can also ask where 1 goes over here, which gives me that 1 and that 2. I usually call that a Zach wing, named after our channel mascot, Zach, the digit dancing penguin. But some people will call it an X-wing. Technically, sort of, kind of not an X-wing, but if you call it an X-wing, no one will be upset. So anyway, so we get our 1 and our 2 here. And in particular, what that's going to do is it's going to mean that this arrow's value is a lot bigger than it otherwise might have been. Because now that I can't use 1 or 2, well, now the minimum this arrow can be, instead of being 3, the minimum this arrow can be is now 3 plus 4, which is 7. So this circle has to be 7, 8, or 9. Well, that's kind of convenient because it's not 7 or 8 by the given digits. So this digit is a 9. And what are the digits that sum to 9 here? And I guess I'm not sure yet whether it is 3 plus 6, which is one option, or 4 plus 5, which is the other. It's not 1 plus 8, and it's not 2 plus 7. So it's one of those. Okay. Let's have a look and see if we can do anything else. We probably can. So looking into this box now, I see that I definitely can't put the 8 on this arrow, right? I'm looking at the 8 is ruled out of these cells. It's ruled out of these cells. And if I put the 8 on this arrow, I'd need to make that circle a 9, so I can't do that either. So I actually have an 8 corner mark sort of sneakily looking across here as I do my Sudoku. What can this cell be? Well, it's at most 6. So I think it's 4, 5, or 6. Because I can't make these 1, 2, because there's a 2 there. And I can't make it 7, 8, or 9, because Sudoku. So this is a 4, 5, or 6. And in all cases, I need to have a 1 on this arrow. And notice that's true because if I don't put a 1 on this arrow, I'm not putting a 2 on it either. It would be at least 3 plus 4. That would make it at least 7. Okay, so it's always worth asking, does this arrow need the lowest digit that could possibly go on it? And in this case, the answer is yes, it does. It needs the 1. So that gives me a 1 corner mark. Okay, and that 1 and that 2, they look across at this arrow, which now has to be bigger than it once did. Because this arrow now can't have a 1 or a 2, so its absolute minimum is 3, 4, which is 7. So this cell needs to be 7, 8, or 9. But it's not 7 because of the given 7. And it's not 8 because of the 8 corner mark in this box. We know one of these two is 8. Both of those look at that. So in fact, this cell is a 9. Okay, that will help a little bit because now I have a 9 looking into this box. So the 9 isn't in those cells. It's not along the arrow or that arrow. So the 9's actually there. And if I look back over here, that's going to place the 9 there. We're doing pretty well on 9s at least. Let's see. We know one of those two is a 9. Oh, by the way, this arrow also can't have a 1 or a 2 on it, is probably worth noting. Because of the 1 in the box down here, the 2 over here. So therefore, this arrow, it sums to at least 7. So this is a 7 or an 8. It's not a 9 because there's a 9 in the box. It's also not a 7 because there's a 2-7 pair looking at it. Right? So this digit is an 8. And how am I summing to 8 in 2 digits if I'm not allowed to use a 1 or a 2? The only option is 3, 5. You could just sort of go through it. If I'm summing to 8, I could be 1 plus 7, 2 plus 6. I can't do either of those. 3 plus 5 or 4 plus 4. And 4 plus 4 has other problems. So this has to be 3, 5. And so that eats up the 3 and the 5 for the box. That actually tells me what this digit is, of all things. Because if you look back over here, this is going to be a 1 plus 3 if it's a 4, a 1 plus 4 if it's a 5, and a 1 plus 5 if it's a 6. However, we've just knocked out the 3 and 5 possibilities, so it's a 1 plus 4, and those numbers add to 5. So that digit is a 5. And so now these two are an 8 and a 6. These are a 6-8 pair, is what we have learned here. I see actually the 8 is actually placed in this box. It goes there, which gives me the 1 and the 8 up there. So the 1 down here isn't in this column. And now if I keep in mind, that actually tells me the 7 down here isn't in this column. Because remember, the 7 in this box is on a 7, 1, 8 arrow. And so the 1 can't be in this column, so it's in this column. And so therefore the 7 isn't, because the 7 would have to go on top of the 1, and we don't want to do that. So we've got a 7 in this column. We can use that and that to place that 7 up there. Let's see. Can I do 7 in this box yet? I can't put a 7 on that arrow because it would need to sum to 8 or 9, and it can't. But that's not immediately helping me. Let's see. This box is missing a 3, 4, 5, 6. That one's not a 6. That one's not a 6 either. So the 6 is vertical, but that's not immediately useful. Minor note, but that's not a 6, so therefore that's not a 3. Maybe I should look at this 9 arrow. Do I know what this is? It's not 1 plus 8. It's not 2 plus 7. It could be 3 plus 6, and it can't be 4 plus 5. So notice this 5 arrow, the thing I was supposed to notice that I didn't. This 5 arrow is telling me this isn't 1, 8, and it's not 4, 5. So it is 3, 6. And actually, if you look over now, this can't be 6 because of this, and it can't be 4 because of this. So that actually places a 5 here, making that a 4 in order to make the math work out. Making that a 3 and that a 6, making that work out. Okay, so we can rule out the 4s and the 3s, rule out that 4 and that 3. So now this is a 5 owing to that, and this is a 3. Okay, I see that in this column, the 5 is up here, which doesn't tell me a ton immediately. It does tell me the circle has to be at least 5, though, because there's either the circle is 5 or there's a 5 on the arrow. So I could write that this is 5, 6, 7. It's not 8 or 9 owing to the box. Maybe I'll pencil mark this column. We seem to be missing a 1 and a 2 and a 4 and a 6. Okay, that didn't help, I'll be honest. Let's see, what about this circle? It's at least 3, at most 7. None of those words seem helpful at the moment. Let's see. This is a pair, so that seems helpful, and that's a pair. Oh, this is just a single even. Okay, this is even better. We have everything in this row except for this. So we've got 1, 2, the 3 is part of this pair, the 4 is part of this pair, the 5, the 6 is part of that pair. The thing we're missing is a 7. This pair is a 1 and a 2, just because that's what's left in the row. And this pair It's a 4 and a 5. And I guess I thought that was going to help somehow. It's not 100% clear to me how I thought that was going to help, but let's see. I know one of these two is an 8. I have a bad feeling I'm supposed to be doing a Sudoku that I have not seen. Oh, yeah, I can place 8 here. I hadn't looked at that 8. Yeah, I've got 4 8s looking into box 3. That's always a sign you can place something. So that 8, that 8, that 8, and that 8 all look into box 3. And so they tell me not in these 2 rows, not in these 2 columns. So that's the 8. Now, is that going to be helpful? Your mileage may vary. What's left in this column? It's 3 and 4, right? Yeah, we've got the 1, the 2. We don't have the 3 and the 4. And then the 5, 6, 8, and the 9 and the 7, we've got all of those. Oh, so that's a 2, 3, 4 triple. So this is the other 5, 6. Oh, that's the point. I see. The point was to ask myself the question, where does 5 go in this box, given that that's a 5? And none of these cells can be 5. None of those cells can be 5. So one of these is 5, and one of them is 8. So none of them are 6. And so, therefore, that is 6, which makes this 2 plus 4, which can only apparently go in that order, makes that a 3 and a 5. Apparently now this is a naked 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, sure is. So this can only be 1. That we know now is a 4. Okay, so we can say those are a 1, 3 pair. These are a 2, 7 pair. The 3 going with the 2 we know, and the 1 going with the 7. That is now known, though. This is a 6. Makes sense. Okay. That is not a 6. Okay, what's left in this row, given we've got that 1 arrow over there? Still got a 1, a 2, and a 3. Those are what's left. Okay. 1, 2, 3. So this could be 3, 4, or 5. 5 is the most I can actually get out of this if I make this 5, 2, 3. Seems plausible-ish. I can actually do the math here just based on the fact that this is only 3 values. So I could do 2 plus 1 is 3, 4 plus 1 is 5, or 6 plus 1 is 7. It looks like all of those are legitimate. This row, I'm missing a 3, a 5, and a 7. Okay, that's not a 7. But the 3 in this row I actually know is down here somewhere. Which means that's not a 3 for what it's worth. Which means that's not a 2 because of how math works. So the 2 in this column is down here, which means that digit's not a 2, which means one of these 2 is a 2. Okay, which now means this isn't 4, because if I used a 2, I'd have to do 2 plus 2 is 4. Can't do that. So this is 3 or 5. And that tells me which of these arrows is which, because remember, these are an 8, 1, 7 in one row and a 5, 3, 2 in the other. If I make this the 5, 3, 2 arrow, this cell has no value. So this has to be the 8, 1, 7 row, which makes that the 5, 3, 2 row. Placing the 2 there. Okay. Oh, I see it. It's a similar trick to what we did over here. Yes, I realize I did make the puzzle, but that doesn't mean my brain remembers anything about it. The problem is, what if this is a 7? If this is a 7, then it's 5 plus what? And see if you see why that's a problem. Yeah, so the problem is, if this is a 7, it's 5 plus 2, and we've removed all the possibilities for this, because this has to be a 2 or a 7. So this can't actually be a 7. It has to be a 5. Which gives me the 3 and the 7. It makes that a 5 and a 4. It makes that a 6. Okay, that's going to help a lot. Here's a good trick to know. These two sum to 5, which these two do as well. So remember, the two ways to sum to 5 are 1, 4, and 2, 3. Well, if this is 1, 4, this one can't also be 1, 4, or we've put 3 1, 4s in the column. So this is 2, 3. And yes, I do realize I could have also done that with the 4, 1 in the row. It's good to see things in lots of different ways. So that makes that a 2, that a 3, 7 and 2, and 1, 4, 1. Okay, now these are 2, 3 summing to 5, making that a 4 and a 5. Let's see, what about these? 2, 3, 4, 5. These are 6 and 7, and I know the order, making those 8 and 6. Let's see, one of these is a 2, and the other is a 6. Can't do that. One of these is a 1, and the other is a 4. That I can do. Perhaps not helpfully. This column, I have everything but 7 placed, so that's got to be a 7. It's the last 7 in the grid, so good thing that we placed it. Okay, so what's at the bottom of this column? We need a 4 and an 8, so they go in that order. Oops. Apparently not a 4, not a 4. Let's try again. No, it's an 8 and a 9. We need an 8 and a 9 at the bottom of here, and that's the 9, and that's the 8. These two are 3 and 4. We can do that. Let's see. These two are 1 and 7. No, sorry. 1 and 9, and we could do that. 1 and 9. 2, 1. I feel like I said 9 with an accent there that I don't have. So that's going to unravel those. 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. That's a 6. 2, 3, and that's a 4. 646 solves. Woo, that's a lot of solves. But hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you learned something about approaching arrow puzzles. And I'll be back soon with more invitation to puzzles. So thank you for watching. Do please leave a like, leave a kind comment. Let me know if you learned something, if you enjoyed the puzzle, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.